Welcome, students! If you're studying for your GCSE Component 1 on good and evil, and you need to get your head around the Holy Spirit, you are in the exact right place. In this explainer, we're going to break down the core theology, the history, and the modern practices you absolutely need to nail for your exam. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll look at the nature of God, Pentecost and St. Paul, baptism and daily prayer, and then wrap it all up with a core beliefs summary.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, the nature of God.
Okay, so let's start with a really crucial definition. From the very early history of Christianity, the Holy Spirit wasn't just seen as some vague force or feeling. No, it was definitively accepted as God. But, and this is absolutely key, it's viewed as a totally separate person of God. Underline that in your notes because it is super important.
And that brings us to this classic theological formula. Jesus is God, the Father is God, and the Holy Spirit is God. All three share the exact same divine nature. I always tell my students to think of it kind of like water, right? Water can be ice, it can be liquid, or it can be steam. Three distinct forms, but literally all 100% H2O. Same deal here. These three persons are all equally God.
But you've got to maintain a strict separation of their identities. On one side, you have the Father, or Jesus, and on the other, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is not the Father, and definitely not Jesus. It stands completely alone as a distinct person. Actually, examiners love to set traps around this specific distinction, so keep it crystal clear in your mind.
Moving right along to Section 2, Pentecost and St. Paul.
Historically, this whole belief evolved across three main eras. First, you have the early history where the Spirit was accepted as God. Second, Pentecost, when the Spirit actually comes down. And third, the era of St. Paul's writing, which really cemented the belief in a Trinity. Having this timeline in your head is a game changer for organizing your thoughts. Let's zoom in on that middle event, Pentecost. So, after the time of Jesus, early Christians experienced the Holy Spirit physically coming down to them. And honestly, this isn't just some minor background detail. It's the defining, explosive moment where the Holy Spirit's active presence was really initiated for believers. Fast forward just a little bit, and by the time St. Paul is writing his letters to the early churches, this belief in a Trinity is absolutely locked in. The idea of the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit as one God but separate persons, that was already the absolute cornerstone of first-century Christianity.
Okay, jumping into Section 3, baptism and daily prayer.
Now you might be wondering, how does the Holy Spirit actually work in modern Christian life? Examiners love it when you can connect ancient history to what people are doing today. How does knowing the Spirit came down at Pentecost actually matter right now?
Well, we see it clearly in two massive modern practices. First, daily prayer. When Christians pray, they believe the Spirit is actively at work right then and there, maybe acting as an inner guide or bringing comfort. And second, people are still getting baptized to this day using these exact same historical concepts.
You've probably heard this phrase before, people are baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Christians are still using this exact Trinitarian formula. Every single time a modern baptism happens, they're literally echoing the theology from St. Paul's era. It's a direct, unbroken link right back to the early church.
Finally, Section 4, our core belief summary.
All right, I want you to take a mental screenshot of this revision checklist right now. 1. The Spirit was accepted as God early on. 2. It's a completely separate person from the Father and Jesus. 3. It came down at Pentecost. 4. The Trinity belief was firmly established by Paul's era. And 5. The Spirit is super active today in prayer and modern baptism. Seriously, memorize those 5 points and you're going to be in amazing shape.
So to wrap up our explainer, I'll leave you with this to chew on. Since the Holy Spirit is a separate person but equally God, how might recognizing this specific distinction completely change the focus of a Christian's daily prayer? If the Spirit is actively present right there in the room, how does that shape a person's connection to the divine? It's a really fascinating thought to reflect on. Keep studying, you've absolutely got this, and best of luck on your exam.